Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit like buttons, subscribe. And if you haven't done so yet, I know so many of you have, hit the bell notification button so you don't miss any more of our content. Now, an article and a conversation between Kieran Maguire, football financial expert, City Extra, and I do actually believe as well, it's been corrected since it was put out earlier, but Sean Fisher as well, have spoke about the situation with Man City. And the claims are that Liverpool Football Club are leading the push to resolve City's financial fair play case, applying pressure on the Premier League to resolve their investigation. Liverpool ideally have stated they want a verdict, and lots of people believe that is pushing for this punishment. They're looking for the outcome before the start of the 24-25 campaign. What do you make of this? Is it the place of other Premier League clubs to push for this, in your personal opinion? What do you believe is the motivation of Liverpool? Is it just so we all know where we sit? Is it so that teams can plan? If City are not hit with any kind of financial penalty, maybe a lot of the clubs will have to continue spending how they are. Maybe if City are going to be sanctioned, removed from the league, you don't have to spend as much. Is it all about their planning for the future? Is it about trying to get City kicked out of the league? Are Liverpool trying to get Manchester City relegated? What do you believe the motivation is around this? I'd love to get your opinion on this now. I'm not surprised to see it, by the way. I do think there needs to be as quick a resolution as possible. However, it is outside the Premier League's hands. The Premier League have essentially, they've made their verdict. The Premier League have made up their mind. They have charged them with 115 counts. Now, a lot of those counts are bundled up within 5 main issues. Some of those are additional charges for not complying and not supporting and not being open and cooperative with them. There are some strange ones as well about the length of grass. Now, the Premier League have done its job. This is now being moved on to an independent committee. And I do agree there does need to be when I say speedy resolution, it needs to be done at a sensible time. I don't see how you can do this mid-season, because depending upon the outcome, that will dictate the severity of the potential punishment for Manchester City if these charges of cheating, of financial doping are proven. So you do it mid-season, that could create a whole mess depending upon the punishment. If it's done outside of the season, at least then it gives you a little bit more leeway to know what to do. But I'd love to know your thoughts and feelings on this. Now, Everton, as we know, have had a lot of support from people since their 10-point deduction. And me and Lee Gunner kind of got into it yesterday. I'm still a little bit confused. I didn't understand why he brought Manchester United into it, because we both agreed that essentially Everton are not victims here. They have broken rules. They have breached the rules, and therefore they have been punished. And I haven't really understood the support they've had from so much of the mainstream media, how they're being spoken about as victims. And, you know, we're going to get to a headline in a minute from Oliver Holt that says Everton are a blood sacrifice. This is crazy support. Lee then brought up Man United, who themselves breached FFP rules with UEFA, not with the Premier League, that is, a couple of seasons back, and they were fined in the summer. Now, I agree with Lee. Either both should be condemned or both should be supported. I agree with that element. And if Man United, by the way, do what Everton have done, I will have the same energy that they are not victims and we deserve to be punished. I agree with what the UEFA have punished us with for a very minor infraction in UEFA's opinion. And if UEFA kicked us out because we didn't follow the rules, that would be on Manchester United. Completely agree. But this here from Ian Herbert says Everton should not be penalised for wanting to build a big stadium to enhance the club in the city. They weren't. They were able to deduct money spent on infrastructure from their losses. This is gaslighting 101. They're not. Go listen to the podcast with Gary Lineker. It explains this in intricate detail. They are not being penalised for investing in women's football, investing in youth, investing in the club's infrastructure. That is deductible. And the Premier League didn't do what UEFA did. The reason why Man United and many other clubs got caught out the season in which they failed is because UEFA changed what you could and couldn't deduct after the fact. That's why clubs are only being fined a relatively small amount of money, because UEFA recognizes that they moved the goalposts. but people don't want to do their research. They don't want to do their reading. They want to categorize everything as the same. But again, they're making Everton out just with this headline, like they're victims here. So they can bring order to the wild, wild west. Everton have had to be the blood sacrifice. Everton have broken rules. Everton have breached regulations. And they have done so fairly fragrantly. If Chelsea and City are found guilty, Chelsea need to be charged first. If they're found guilty of not just breaching rules, but circumventing them, cheating the system, deliberately, intentionally, in a premeditated manner, financially doping the situation so they could compete at the highest level, it's a far cry. It will be an apocalyptic level of guilt if this is the standard, but we need punishment to have teeth. But what's crazy to me is these situations are getting less attention, less focus than a far more prevalent issue that's day to day in the Premier League, and that is VAR and referees. And the reason I bring this up is Oliver Holt here, along with many other journalists, are protecting Everton, and they're barely talking about the other issues that are going on in the game. It's not even a mention. It's almost as if cheating and breaking the rules that's fine. Clubs can do that. But when clubs and managers call out blatant mistakes by referees and huge inconsistencies, they're attacked. And this brings us on to the final subject matter. One, I'm sick and tired of seeing Everton being defended and people lying about what they have and haven't done. I'm sick and tired of the conflation between what Everton have done and what Man City are accused of. They're not the same thing whatsoever. But where I'm really frustrated is the media is out here protecting the clubs against breaching rules, and I include Man United in that. Could have been noisier. It has been brushed under the carpet a bit. I agree with Lee on that. But when it comes to, look at this headline here. And this headline to me, genuinely, I had to double take this was real. I refreshed the website 3 times. Is this real or have they been hacked? It says, let's all talk loud about this problem. The stench that comes from bosses like Mikel Arteta throwing Sunday League refs under the bus. Throwing Sunday League refs under the bus. Shameless headline. The stench is what he's saying here. Now, we all agree, and let me get this out at the outset, that any kind of abuse, physical or verbal, especially to Sunday League referees, where there isn't police and security around, stewards around to help them, is absolutely abhorrent, and there is no place for it. But in my personal opinion, a football club calling out the inconsistencies of VAR, fans like me calling out the inconsistencies of VAR, it isn't the butterfly effect that causes some thug on a Sunday to hit a referee. I believe that to be, just because you're trying to create a correlation, it doesn't make it the causation. It's nonsense. We call out the inconsistencies because I actually went and watched the League One game last night. I went and watched Leyton Orient play. And 5 or 6 times in the game, players jumped up and leant with their arms on the backs of their opponent, and each time the referee blew for a foul. And it made me think about this incident that they're referring to here, when VAR said, with no way of knowing the amount of pressure, the amount of force Joel Linton had on the back of Gabriel. The inconsistencies that have been called out is that we've seen other fouls that are very similar given. And the majority of time in games, you blow that as a foul. In each of those occasions, you have no idea of the force being applied. But on this one particular example, you change your stance. All we want to know is why. And if we were given transparent answers, if we were given honesty, if people held their hand up and said, we made a mistake on that, we shouldn't have done it, and then they rectified it and continued to referee in the right way, there wouldn't be the level of anger, frustration that leads to abuse. Now, you go and read more of this article, and I've said many times before, and I know there's already comment on Carrie simping for Arsenal again. It's not about that. It's about what's right for football. The wording in this article is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It says here, a couple of weeks ago, in the aftermath, I'm going to get this a little bit bigger so I can read it because it's hurting my eyes. It says, a couple of weeks ago, in the aftermath of his hysterical and overwrought attack on referees. Now, the language is important. The irony here is he talks about don't mistreat people, don't create problems for them. But he's saying attacked. Attack for me is suggesting it's physical, and it wasn't. It says Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta, with the full backing of his club, doubled down on his character assassination of officials and called for criticism to grow. What is wrong? Again, defending Everton for breaking rules, spending more than they could, trying to gain an unfair sporting advantage. They're a blood sacrifice. Managers and clubs and fans, you're included in this, calling out huge inconsistencies, huge malpractice, damaging games, damaging football is now criticized as essentially bullying and being hysterical. It is a madness. Goes on to say in the article, and I want to read this out here to you here. The stink is not referees. The problem is managers like Arteta who are scared to take responsibility for their own shortcomings. And I know what Oliver Holt has done here. I agree that no matter how bad the referee is, you still focus on what went wrong in the game. Substitutions, was the lineup correct? Did X, Y, and Z play well? How do I know this? It's what we do on the Full Fan Highlight Show. We talk about every facet of the game. And some weeks we focus more on players, some weeks it's more VAR. But over the course of a month, 2 months, 3 months, it's balanced. And Arteta will at times say we weren't good enough today, will criticize elements. I'm sure he does it behind the scenes, but he's absolutely right to call out the referees' mistakes, VAR's inconsistencies. He says the managers stink. The stink is managers like him who think nothing of the human cost of what they do. And again, we need to then remove interviews straight after games. But again, the media won't allow that to happen. They want that because they want to make the Kardashian-style drama out of it. But the irony is he's having to go at a manager for saying something that could cause abuse to a referee. And why are you writing this article that could now create abuse towards Mikel Arteta? He's a human being. What about the Arsenal fans now that will criticize VAR and will go, actually, they'll get abused now of other people on Twitter because you're saying that this is just to protect the shortcomings of Arteta. People will abuse them now for even calling out VAR. I'll get abuse for even reading this article. Are you responsible for that, Oliver Holt? The answer is no, you're not. If I tweet something and somebody responds, and then someone that I don't even know who follows me abuses that person, I am not accountable. If a grown man on a Sunday hits a referee, that grown man is accountable. It goes on to say the stench of people like Arteta who think they can throw other people with far less power and influence than them under the bus and expose them to ridicule and violence. I mean, again, I don't think Arteta at any point has created violence towards a single individual. Where is your evidence of that? It's because they do not have the courage to take responsibility for a football result. And that there is a nonsense. They do take responsibility for their results. But it doesn't mean just because you lose, you can't call out bad refereeing decisions. That precedent that is being set by the mainstream media is damaging to the game. And by the way, will only lead to more frustration and anger. What we want is transparency, conversations, challenge, and to be able to move forward and improve. Shutting down conversation, that is dangerous. And again, it shows me one thing, the way Arteta behaves on the sideline. I've seen the Fergies and the Peps and the Klopps. All of these guys behave at times abhorrently on the sidelines. I've seen Fergie get a bit of stick. I've seen Wenger get a bit of stick. I've seen Jose get stick. But other managers are celebrated for it. Arteta does it, and suddenly they're calling him a stench. They're blaming Arteta for things he has nothing to do with. And now I know people that hate Arsenal are going to say, so what, Terry, stop simping for them. This is not about protecting Arteta personally. This could be your club next, your team next. How bad and inconsistent do these VAR decisions have to be? How badly damaged the clubs have to be robbed before we're allowed to say anything? Or you're only allowed to call it out if you win? What is that precedent? We need to call it out when you win, lose, or draw. We need to ask these referees big, solid questions. And yes, Arteta is more famous than them. He's more powerful, I suppose, financially. But are we now saying that if you have more money than the man down the road, you can't challenge something he does wrong? What is this all about? This is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I want to get your thoughts and I want to get your feelings, people. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. I'm off. Take care, people. Peace.